Joining me now to discuss is Michael Baker, former CIA covert operations officer and CEO of the global intelligence firm Portman Square Group. Michael, great to see you. Great to have you back on. As we just heard from Owen, the U.S. has shipped military equipment to Ukraine. In addition, troops were placed on high alert today. Mike, how do you think this is going to play out? And do you think these actions, as well as those of our NATO allies, do you think that will be enough of a deterrence?
Well, I think they're important to take these steps, but I don't think, in a sense, that they're going to be the deterrent that stops Putin, because I still, at this point, don't believe that Putin's end game here is a full-on invasion. And so, in a sense, again, what we're doing now is important and essential, these various steps that we're now taking. I would argue that we're taking some of them a little bit later than we should have. But ultimately, you have to ask yourself, what is Putin's game here? Why is he doing this? And I believe that what he's looking for are some victories. He knows that he's not going to get everything he's asked for, particularly this idea that, somehow we will put in writing that Ukraine will never be allowed to enter NATO. I don't think that's going to happen anyway, but we're not going to put that in writing. So I think there's certain things that he's looking for out of this. And it will stop short of a large-scale military conflict.
Another thing I want to talk about is yesterday, you probably heard the Biden administration ordered a departure for family members of staff at the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine, and then a voluntary departure for government employees. However, they told American citizens in the country to leave on their own, since the U.S. government will not be in a position to evacuate them. I want to get your thoughts on that. And what do you think that signals, in particular, to those Americans in Ukraine?
Well, I think, first of all, it signals an awareness from the Biden administration that the debacle, the problem that we had with Afghanistan is still looming in people's minds. And the last thing that they want is to see sort of a 2.0 of that. So, look, as you pointed out, the U.S. has instructed dependents to leave, as has the U.K., now Australia and Germany have joined in that. But I think it's prudent. It's the right step, and typically you always see this when hostilities or the potential for hostilities rise really anywhere in the world. The U.S. Embassy always, the first thing they do is they move out the dependents, the families. So that's a good step. But I think the key here is to look at this from Putin's perspective. And right now he is able to afford this adventurism in part because the current U.S. administration has allowed, in a sense, oil to rise up to record levels for the past 7 or 8 years, $85 a barrel. In the past, when oil was down to $30 a barrel or below, Putin couldn't afford to engage in this sort of activity. It just wasn't going to be possible. But so that's an element of this as well. We should be thinking about this holistically rather than just, okay, this is something that we address on one track only.
Yeah. So much going on around the world, as you know. I want to talk about China now. Taiwan is reporting that 39 Chinese aircrafts entered its air defense zone this weekend. And today, the Department of Defense said that 2 U.S. aircraft carrier groups entered the South China Sea for training. What do you think this indicates? And why do you think China is taking these actions right now?
Right. Well, this is an extension of what they've been doing for a couple of years. This is the largest incursion by the Chinese Air Force into what's known as sort of the island's defense zone since the last quarter of 2021, since October. So I think, again, under the theory that nothing happens in a bubble, the world is always shrinking, right, in the sense. What's happening in Russia and with Ukraine and the U.S. reaction is being watched by President Xi. Now, look, the Xi regime has been very clear, as China has been for decades, over how they view Taiwan, which is Taiwan belongs to us. And so, could it be that President Xi is thinking about maybe accelerating the time frame at the point where they want to absorb Taiwan? I don't believe it would be, again, through what we consider traditional military intervention, but the idea that perhaps they accelerate that time frame because they're looking around and they're thinking, we don't honestly think we're going to get any serious pushback here.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not sure if you saw this or not, but Representative Michael McCall from Texas said that he thinks that China will invade Taiwan after the Olympics. I want to get your thoughts on that. Do you think that's a possibility?
Well, you never rule out anything when we're talking about, something as serious as this. But I think that's probably a little bit too simplistic in terms of viewing what the Chinese regime military would think about here. Look, they will at some point make a move. Again, I don't believe necessarily that it's going to be an old school military invasion. I think that there's, the next major conflict is going to play out in a much different way. It's going to be in cyberspace. It's going to involve space. It's going to involve sort of a, reaching out and disabling infrastructure within the target country. So I don't think we can actually, we have to kind of get outside of our old school thinking in terms of how these conflicts will play out in the future. And that means we have to think about what a proportional and appropriate response will be from our and our allies' perspective.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have to leave it right there. So much more we can talk about. But, Mike, we appreciate you coming on and giving us your analysis.
Of course. Thank you.